Hey, Warren.
So, Nick, yes, I was wondering if I should ask our guest for a joke because you were unprepared for that.
No, I am prepared. I have a whole book of
But
jokes
you've
now.
got a little book the size of the yellow pages, which is not very little.
Are you ready?
Let's go. Get it done.
How did the drummer sell her sofa?
No.
Per cushion.
Oh, my goodness me.
That was a cracker.
Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Come on,
All right,
tell me
listeners.
it's bad.
So, you're going to have to start giving Nick some feedback on her jokes, listeners. Otherwise, she's just going to keep going. If you're groaning in your car as you listen to these and you'd like it to stop, give us some feedback. Actually, go and give us a 1-star review on Spotify or
No,
something.
don't do that.
I dare you.
that.
And then put in the feedback section Nick's jokes. That's all. If you know, you know.
Somebody is going to go and do that. Nobody will be able to find us on Spotify anymore.
It'll be the second Spotify review, I think.
It'll
I don't
be
think but
your
most people
fault.
know that they can review us on Spotify.
Because it's only a new feature.
It is. Anyway, we are not here to talk about jokes, although our guest today is a Kiwi, so that's probably funny enough. But we've actually got one of our what's another Real Tradie story today, Real Tradie Guys, and today's guy is definitely a guy because he's got one of the best beards I've ever seen. I have such beard envy. Ben Hulsbosch, welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast, mate.
Thank you for having me. It's an honour.
Pleasure,
No,
mate.
It's an honour for us to have you here.
Love chatting with a man with a beard. Just something about a man with a beard. I'm starting to sound a bit scary now, aren't I, Nick?
You're digging a hole, and I don't know whether I'm going to fall in it or you're going to fall in it,
Someone's
or maybe
gonna
we'll
fall
push
in it.
Ben into it.
Yeah, we'll just shove the Kiwi in the hole instead.
Yeah, it's been done.
Now, we were just having a good old chin wag, and as we usually do, we have a great chat before we press record. And then we kind of have to recreate some of the conversation for our episode. But Ben, you are one of our awesome tradiepreneurs, and you're a tradiepreneur with a difference, listeners, because Ben is a newbie. He's a bit green behind the ears, and wet behind the beard. So he's only just recently started his business. How long have you been up and running now, Ben?
I've been up and running for about 3 months now.
Okay. So nice and fresh and innocent.
I think it's a good job. of-
Definitely innocent.
So we want to chat to you about, I guess, that whole starting a business thing today. Before we get into that, though, I just want to know how Kiwis find sheep in the grass.
Well, they usually come to their name. All that you need to do is stand by the fence and yell out to them, and they usually come to you anyway.
Because I had a bloke tell me once that he found them very nice, thank you.
Your joke's dreadful, Warwick.
Oh,
No,
I'm refraining so much from just punning out.
Well, I usually do a really bad accent, and I'm not going to today.
No, please.
I can do that for you.
You can do a bad Aussie accent, mate.
Oh,
All right, so Ben, you're not just a business owner and a tradiepreneur, but you also love to chop a log.
yep, I sure do. It's
Nick rolls her eyes at me.
it's probably the first sport that I've ever picked up and run with as well. Because as a Kiwi, you'd probably expect me to play rugby and all of that sort of stuff. But in my younger days, I was in the musical scene, more of a guitar player, and that was sort of my thing.
Wow.
So after I moved,
like Men in Tights musicals, you know.
yeah, makeup and everything.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, I picked it up and I love it. Wood
Wow.
chopping's probably the best things that I've ever done as far as exercise goes.
I can say with authority that you are the only client we have that competitively wood chops. Is that even the right terminology?
Yeah. competitive wood chopper. I don't even have a fireplace.
You can't even use the byproducts, mate.
I can't. I have to find people to give it away to.
Wow.
I get a stockpile at my tiny unit and just hand it off.
You need to go and visit Warwick for a bit.
Just for our listeners' benefit, Ben does not have a firewood business, although I think you should set up a side hustle, mate.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that you live in probably one of the hottest states in Australia, being Western Australia, so probably not much business over there for firewood supply.
Nah, a while ago I've had a conversation with a Italian restaurant down the road who do wood-fired pizzas. Yeah, but I decided that it's a lot easier if someone just comes and picks it up instead of having to take it wheelbarrow load at a time down the road.
Absolutely. Move that stuff on. So how did you even come to participating in a sport like wood chopping? Is it something you just tripped over, or a friend or somebody you knew had done it and recommended it?
So I still remember the date, like the day that I decided to do it. I was at lunchtime when I first started my apprenticeship in 2018, I think it was. It's not even long ago. And I saw a video on Facebook and I thought to myself, shit, that looks fun. I wonder if there's anywhere in Perth that you can do that. So I started searching and found a association that was close to me that does training every Monday, and got in touch with them and started doing it. Started with the axe. I've still got it. It's called the $20 special, and it's about that big. I was cutting 14-inch logs with it and just absolutely ruining myself, but it got me some good technique.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain to me how you go from watching a video of somebody chopping wood to turning that into fun, because I've missed something along the line.
Yeah.
And I might add, I had a business cutting and supplying firewood. That was the first business I ever owned 25 odd years ago now. I did not find that fun. It was hard work.
Yeah, it's a wee bit different doing the competition. It's definitely a lot softer being green. But I don't know what it was that made me look at that and think, oh yeah, that's a bit of fun. But it did. Like I said before, it's in the blood. With my old man used to do it, as I later sort of found out, which is very lucky.
Very serendipitous, mate.
Yeah, it's in the blood.
Now, there's a really great segue here, and I'm pretty sure no one is going to pick this up, not even Nicole.
No.
So there's a quote supposedly from, I think it's George Washington, that if he had, I can't remember the number, if he had 7 hours to chop down a tree, he'd spend 6 hours sharpening his axe. And boom, boom. But it gets used a lot by coaches, of course, to illustrate how much or how important preparation is, instead of just, you described it so well, Ben, is with your $20 special, flailing at this log and destroying yourself and not probably making much progress. Of having the right tool and obviously putting a lot of effort into sharpening your tool before you go whacking things with it. And starting a business is very similar to that, where you can just pick up and go smash yourself in business and just go hell for leather and hope to get some results. Or you could actually go get the right tools, spend a lot of time sharpening them, learning how to use them well. And like you with your wood chopping, like you've won, what was the title you won recently? Something insane.
It was wood chopper of the show or something at the Perth Royal Show. I won the most events out of any wood chopper there in the open events, which I was pretty happy
impressive,
with.
mate.
Yeah, you should be happy with that.
Yeah, and you've probably beaten a bunch of guys that have been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they were stoked about that.
It was a bit of a feather in the hat.
Absolutely.
Is there such a thing as like axe sabotage? Is there tampering? Is there a tampering rule?
Yeah, there's actually stories of people that go up and take a penny and scratch the edge with it. I don't even know if it's true, but it bloody sounds pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Poor bugger to anyone that has that happen.
Yeah.
Imagine the strain on your body. So when you talk about your $20 special and flogging yourself to cut through that wood, I can only imagine the intense strain on your body if your instruments aren't sharp.
Yeah.
Because you would have to use so much more of your physicality to be able to punch through that wood.
Yeah, and the one thing, probably the worst thing about having a dull axe or an axe that wasn't sharpened correctly is if it cuts that deep and it doesn't bounce out and come back to you, you've got to pull it out of that wood where it's wedged in there so hard, and that's where it absolutely kills you.
Yep.
Because you could have the sharpest axe in the world, but if it's not done correctly and if it's not made so that it's easy to use, then it's going to kill you.
Bit like
Sounds
business,
like
really.
another great metaphor, doesn't it? We're
Yeah, I
just
thought you'd grab
stacking the
that
metaphors
segue.
in here.
Oh dear.
So Ben, you started wood chopping. You're an absolute gun. I feel like you've brought a similar approach to starting your business. Can you tell our listeners a little bit, I guess, about a bit about you and also about your business and kind of how all this came about?
Yeah, well, I am a heavy diesel fitter by trade, working primarily on water well drilling rigs and drill rigs around Western Australia. I know I've been around drill rigs for the last 10 years. Half of those were offsiding and drilling, and then I transitioned into becoming a fitter because I used to get too excited when the rig would break down, and I got a chance to have a go at fixing it. So I got an opportunity to do my apprenticeship, and I jumped in and did that. And I'm a pretty obsessive person by nature. Like anything that I start doing, I just take in as much as I can and go hell for leather over it. So once I got back up north after doing my apprenticeship to go and look after the same drill rigs that I used to drill on and offside on, I started clicking in my brain about moving to New Zealand and how I can't just move back home with a trade or anything like that. I need to learn how to run a business because that was the natural next step to giving us control over our lives. And it was the switch that went off as soon as I had that connection was made. It was just boom, and then started obsessing over that and researching, and yeah, it was a bloody deep rabbit hole that I'm still going down, and I think I'm just at the start of it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting journey. We were talking earlier before we press record about how rare it is, I think, for business owners to really consciously take that first step into business. I think many of us sort of fall into business. I know many of my businesses come about from a great idea or a conversation, and suddenly I have a business and I probably haven't really planned it out the way I should have. Yes, I'm talking about tradies and business at a what was it, a fuel station on the side of the highway. But most of my businesses have been the same. And I think for tradies particularly, it happens that way because they're fantastic at what they're able to do with their hands. They're great at their job. And we all feel as though we can do better than somebody who's currently employing us. It's easy to poke holes, I think, when we're working for somebody else. It's really easy to see those gaps or the opportunities or where we could potentially do things better or differently. But also that idea of freedom or taking control. You mentioned it yourself even. What made you want to look at perhaps doing some of this stuff before you even began in your business journey? You've worked particularly hard on setting the structure of the business, ensuring that everything is ready to flick the switch and turn into a business owner. And I don't know that I've met too many like you that are immediately thinking like a business owner rather than somebody making that transition. So I'd wonder if you can give us a bit of an idea of what that process was like.
Yeah, it probably looks back on the whole obsessive nature that I have when I start moving into something. And another facet of that is I have to understand exactly how something works, which is sort of why I'm good at being a fitter and fixing things. So I couldn't bring myself just to say I'm going to start a business, get a ABN and then start charging and not knowing exactly how it works or why I'm doing it, which is why I put so much pre-planning into it to understand exactly what I needed in place and almost predicting the business before it was even a business on how it was going to work, which you guys have been such a big help in.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. We'll slip you that check after.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you express gratitude to us because for us as business coaches, and for any listeners who don't know, yes, Nicole is a business coach, and she loves it when I tell her that.
Yeah.
But to I guess work with and be a part of a community, I think that's the biggest thing for us. Is really we just moderate a community of people like you, Ben. We get so much fulfillment out of working with people like you who take ownership and are just so open to learning and feedback and coaching, obviously, that I feel like it almost can't fail, to use that word in that sense, because it is a great, I'm going to use this term, synergistic relationship where, the polarity just works. And then there's other people who you feel like you're just arm wrestling with them all the time to convince them that having a business plan is a good idea, or that you should probably write some stuff down and have some procedures for your business even before you start it. So, just to reflect some of that back at you, Ben, you're getting the results that you deserve, mate.
Oh, thank you very much. No, it's definitely something that I'm passionate about now as well. Not even looking at the industry that I'm in, but the business part is so much like a machine in the way that you can look at it and you can see how everything works and change things. Because I think that this is going off on a tangent, but probably one of the things that I've struggled with the most is going from the mindset of an employee and thinking that you've got someone else there to say good job or like you're doing the right thing or anything like that, into something where you start to realize that every decision you make is yours and you're the only one that's going to tell you whether or not you're doing the right thing, or the feedback that we can get from the community after we've done it.
Yeah.
It's a weird transition to make, but it's good. It's very freeing.
It's huge. And I think when you start to get a handle on some of those fundamentals that go into running a business, you learn really quickly what the metrics are to reflect back to you what that success looks like. So it's the figures, often it's in the figures, or it's testing and measuring different parts of your marketing plan, or it's the feedback that you're actually seeking from your clients on a consistent basis. That's where I think the metrics of success start to come from. Ben, in the beginning, we have lofty ideas about what a business potentially could look like, particularly in the short term. I guess that comes a lot from looking at our heroes or businesses that we aspire to. And often we find that business looks really different when we jump in and give it a crack. What's it been like for you? Did you have some of those lofty ideas that you've had to rephrase or relook at? Or have you actually found that you're with that intent and the work beforehand, you're able to get where you need to be?
It's actually really better than I thought it was going to be, because when I was in the planning stage and because I didn't know what anything costed, like insurances or any of those sort of ongoing costs, I overestimated everything so much. And when I was figuring out, what it might look like versus what it actually looks like now, I was way further down the track as far as how much it was going to cost me. So it's so much better than I thought it was going to be. But I'm so thankful that I at least, put the work in to actually overestimate it and not have any fantastical ideas that was going to, throw me under the bus later on.
Yeah, totally. So what surprised you in your first 3 months? What's different than you thought it was going to be?
Just that it really surprised me that it was working the way that I sort of designed it to. Like the profit that I'm putting away is my profit, and then there's no tax on that because I've calculated the tax and I put that away somewhere else, and like it's all of that's coming into place. And for example, one thing that surprised me this break, I haven't even told you guys about this, but I got a call on my first day of break and had another drilling company contract me for 3 days to come and do a job on one of their rigs in Perth. And that was the time to pull the trigger on something that I'd planned and buying a full set of tools for Perth. So now I'm all set up for Perth rig as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Congratulations.
Good on you, mate.
And having all of that stuff in place from the get-go, it wasn't a surprise, and it wasn't something that I stressed about, or it's not going to affect cash flow or anything like that, because everything was in place from the start.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
I think for our listeners listening, can I just remind you, Ben's been in business for 3 months and 3 months only. And yes, he did just say he's already putting profit away. There'll be many of our listeners who have been in business 5, 10, 20 years, and they're still not putting profit away. It's mind-blowing to me, because it's a transition, right? I think becoming a business owner is a transition from being a tradie to becoming a business person, and that's really, really challenging to do. So often the thought of profit and what to do with profit and how to allocate it, it's a mind-blowing concept for many business owners, not just in the trades, I think in many. So really important point that I'd like to highlight, that you've already had those thoughts, conversations, put the work into creating the outcome that you desire, which is to have profit to put away, which is to be drawing a good wage, which is to understand what's required so that you can purchase that set of tools. Whilst that's work, putting it in place early on so that you have, I guess, those metrics that you can measure and make decisions by, means that you don't have to be concerned or worried about when is the right time to make a choice within the business.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking about this yesterday. One of the things that I wanted to sort of bring up was it is stressful having a business, but when you've put the plan in, like I have, and it's all of the surprise things aren't stressing you out. It's the stressful parts of what you choose to put on yourself, which is the growth, and the things that are pushing you forward are the stresses that you choose to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot different than having something that pops up and scares the poo out of you and then start stressing over that.
Because you've done that background work, you can adapt more readily. Like you can make those quick decisions from a place of, okay, yep, well, I've this is not what I planned, and I can see that I've got the funds to buy the full set of tools based on that coming in, because you've got some certainty around cash flow and profit and workflow and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Ben, one of the things that I guess we talk about and gets talked about a lot is that a lot of business owners, particularly new business owners, don't know what they don't know. So there's this bunch of stuff that they figure they should know, but they don't know what it is. Is there, I mean, you certainly went into this very much with your eyes open. Are there some things that you've learned that you didn't know you should learn before you started the business?
Yeah. There is a lot that I didn't know. Especially around the systems part of it. I think, like, say, before I actually started up and running, I didn't know that I should have a invoicing or a quoting process or a sales process in place, so that every time you made a sale, it was the same thing you're doing every time, which then in the future means that you don't have to think about it because you've got the process there and anyone else can do it.
Yep.
And before I started, I didn't know that I need to know how to make the systems. I knew that systems were a thing and that they're important and that's what adds value to a business, but I never knew where to implement them or at what level they go down to, because everything's got one behind it. Absolutely everything.
They're like the unicorn of business, I think, systems. And it's often spoken about by business coaches. You need to systemize the business. But it's really hard to understand what that actually looks like. Can you give us an insight to what that has been like for you, even just some of those smaller systems maybe that you didn't realize you would have to have in place?
Yeah, so for me, one of the first systems I put in place that's actually been really helpful was my invoicing system, because I had no idea how to use Xero. I started making just a flowchart and a screen recording system for that, so that I knew that when I'd started and I was busy, my brain wouldn't want to jump over to learning how to invoice and then confusing it and doing it different the next time you do it and different the time after that.
Yep.
So I made a simple system that just has the step-by-step things off Google, put it into a flowchart, screen recording. So then every time I do it, it's the same way. And then in the future, anyone else that needs to can for me too.
It's brilliant, Ben. It's the systems, they're what carry the business on autopilot forward rather than you having to constantly put out fires. If you've got systems in place and you can be reactive where they might break or they're not quite functioning the way that you need them to function, they can carry that business through for you while you take the time to continue to be on the tools. They're still providing the growth while you start to offload some of those other responsibilities in your business. If the system's in place, it still creates those repeatable results. And I feel like, yes, we bandy on about the unicorn that is systems in business all the time, but it's great to hear from somebody who is only just putting them in place and that getting that understanding from you about how important they are and how they mean that when you're tired after a long day at work and you need to draw up an invoice and send it off, you've got that system to provide the repeatable result for you instead of making a mistake or stuffing up zero because you've done it a different way this time because you just needed to get it out and you're exhausted and you couldn't quite remember. So it's a great opportunity, I think, for others to listen and learn how important some of those small systems are to get that repeatable result rather than getting stuck or creating mistakes or holes for yourself. One of the things that we talk a lot about, I think on the podcast as much with our members, is forecasting your future, your crystal ball, trying to get an understanding of what the next 3 to 6 months might look like in business. And that's really hard to assume when you are a brand new business and you've never done this before. Has that been challenging for you? And if it hasn't, why not? What's created that clarity for you?
The cash flow forecasting in my crystal ball has surprisingly not been hard for me, and it's been extremely accurate from before I started the business because of that whole thing I was talking before about, overestimating costs. And since I know what my job was before starting the business, and I knew that what I was doing was basically going to be the same sort of thing, traveling somewhere, fixing something and traveling back or whatever. All that I did was put a monetary value on everything that I was doing there and then the estimated cost of everything else. And it's worked out really perfectly. I don't know how I've done it.
That's magic, Ben.
But it has. I wish I had some massive problems to tell you that I had to face around it, but
no, we want you to tell us how smooth and easy it's been. Everybody else thinks they need to do it before they start business as well.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best things that I've done around the cash flow, and particularly now, has been to match up. I've matched up all of my zero chartered accounts with the cash flow forecast. So now I don't even need to think about updating it. I just have a look at my chartered accounts and say, oh, that's how much I spent this month, and I just write it in there, and then that helps me predict the future from there.
Yep,
that's great.
It's everything that you've put in place, and it's not very sexy. It's prevention. It's like preventative maintenance, which I talk about a fair bit. Those systems and setting up the cash flow forecast and all those things, they kind of protect your best self from your worst self as a business owner. Because we have moments where we're complete morons and we do dumb stuff in our businesses that our best self would never let us do. But having those systems, we create them when we're in our best self mode so that our worst self is like, damn it, there's already a way for me to do this thing. I can't screw it all up, So it's like having put all that work in and overestimating expenses, and like that creates the safety net for when you do have a moment of, oh, that's a sexy looking tool, or I think I'll just have an extra week off or something, and then that buggers up your cash flow and you can't pay your invoices next month.
Yep.
Ben, I want to talk about your goals and ask you, and I don't actually know the answer to this, listeners. So this is I could dig a hole for myself here and make myself sound like a complete wally. So make sure you help me out here, big fella. But you had some goals, and most people do when they go into a business. Have they changed at all now that you're sort of 3 months in, and I guess you're seeing what reality looks like versus the idea of the business?
Yep.
Have your goals changed at all? And if so, how might they have changed?
Around the business, I think they're slowly changing at the moment into something a wee bit more solid, because when I started, I knew I wanted to start the business and I know I want to grow the business, but the question is where I want to grow it, because one of my goals, or me and Cindy, my fiance's goal, is to move to New Zealand and have the business over there. But we're sort of trying to figure out at the moment whether or not we're going to keep it in Australia and New Zealand and run, two businesses or one big business between the two places, sort of thing. So that's evolving at the moment. But probably the biggest change in goals that we've had recently, which is another rabbit hole that we're starting to go down, is profits. The profits from the business. We don't want to just sit there doing nothing. We are going down the next rabbit hole of figuring out how to get them working for the future, whether it's reinvesting into the business or portfolios or property or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest goal that's formulating now for 20 years down the track.
Yeah. Wealth creation, mate.
Yeah.
Which is what we should all be in business for, is to create wealth.
Yeah.
Not just to keep us occupied on the days in between weekends or wood chops. Which is probably a good thing for some of us blokes, just to keep us occupied. We get up to all sorts of bad news.
Yeah, give us time. Well, give us time and we can do anything.
Wreak havoc. So, I mean, that's really cool to hear, because if correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're thinking about bigger goals than you probably predicted coming into the business. And I know you guys had some specific goals. We knew about the New Zealand thing. Thanks for not dropping that on us in the podcast, so that's good. But to be adding stuff in at this stage of your business, like that's the stuff that people usually just give up on in business after about the 6th year. It's like, well, that's never going to happen, so we'll just give up on that and just keep paying the bills. Has there been, I don't know, I don't want to use the word secret because it's not a secret, but is there some secret sauce or some magical things that have led to that?
Apart from being in the Tradiepreneur community,
nice plug. Thanks,
thank you. The biggest secret sauce that I've got is just plan. If you plan, you can literally see into the future, and seeing into the future means that you know what the present needs to look like to get there. And it sounds simple, but it's just so invaluable to be able to do that and to know how to do it. It's that simple. Just plan it. And for me, it's not an option. It's not an option not to move in that direction. Like if something's not working, it can't stay like that. It needs to change so that it's, working for me. Because it's my business and it's meant to work for me and Cindy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, mate. That's our new tag. All right, Ben, when you first started talking to us, you had a pretty loose timeline on what starting business might look like. And I remember in our early conversations saying, oh, no, we can bring that closer. We can bring that closer. That's really easy for me to say in my privileged position of understanding a lot of the fundamentals that need to be in place for you to be able to do it as successfully as you have in that period of time. Can you tell us about your timeline and what it was that accelerated that timeline so you could actually start the business earlier than you first thought you would?
Yeah. I think, what was our timeline originally? Somewhere between 6 months.
It was, 6 to 8 months, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it ended up being 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
You're up and running by your 5th month, I think.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. Seems like 3 months ago. Probably the things that really accelerated it was becoming, like, joining. I keep plugging it, but joining a community where I could ask the questions that I wouldn't be able to get the answers off Google. Like, Lord knows I try Googling everything. But when I could start asking questions and have access to the resources that tell me exactly what I needed to do, that brought everything forward so fast, because it just shortened this whole learning curve of figuring out what I don't know and then learning how to know it. Instead, I already knew what I didn't know because it was all there in front of me, and then all that I had to do was implement it and move forward from there.
Yeah, nice. I'm just writing all this down for our next marketing meeting here at Tradies and Business. Ben,
was it hard? Like, one of the common points of feedback we get is I'm already busy, there's not enough time, or it's too hard. Was it hard for you? How did you make the time? Remembering that, so for our listeners' benefit, if they haven't picked up yet, you were working full-time in your capacity at your regular job and doing this outside of those business hours. Was that really, really hard, or was it, I don't know, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Was it hard?
Yeah. It was definitely hard because it's learning something new, but I was extremely passionate about it, and I was working long hours. Like when I'm up on site, it's 84 hours a week for 2 weeks. So you're working all day, every day, but I'd just get back at night and a couple of hours on the computer doing some planning or doing a cash flow or learning something. And then while I'm working all day, I can be thinking about it and mulling it over. And then when I get back from work at night, I can just put it down on the computer, and it's just rinse and repeat that over and over. So it wasn't, I'd probably say it was demanding, but it wasn't hard, and it wasn't too stressful because I found out that I love learning after I left school.
Yeah.
So what does it look like now? Are you still working those massive hours week on week, plus working after hours on the business? Yeah,
it pretty much looks the same as that. Working when I'm up at work, it's the same sort of hours because it's sort of labour hire style thing, working for the drilling companies. And then I just do a bit after work every night. Again, it's on things that don't have to be done, but it's things that are building the business and goals that I set for myself and keeping on track for the growth that we're looking for.
And then
as far as things that I have to do on a daily basis to keep the business running, there's not a whole lot because I've got so much stuff in place.
Yeah, perfect. And then are you still doing similar to 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off?
2 weeks on, 1 week off.
Yeah, okay.
At the moment.
Nice.
But it's good. And then on the week off, surprisingly, I don't do too much business stuff either. It's about the same, maybe 2 or 3 hours a day at the most. Cindy, my fiance, has been amazing. She's a bit of a social media whiz, so she's been getting that up and running for me.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's fantastic.
It's been really good. I just have to come up with the puns.
Well, if you ever run out of material, mate, just let us know.
Nick's
got a little blue book full of really bad jokes.
365 of them, and I've only used 7.
I've still got a couple of joke books at home from when I was 12.
Probably the same
They're
level.
about the same level, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Ben, I'm going to ask Warwick's question.
You've
steal your thunder.
Usurped me. Jump in, Coxie. I was just about to blurt it out too.
All right, Ben, I think you know the question because you were a podcast listener before you spoke to us in the first place. And the question is, if you had 1,000 trade business owners in a room, what's the one piece of advice you'd love to leave them with?
Don't be afraid to plan and to really take a deep look at it.
I'm
I
writing
don't think
that
we've
down
ever
too.
had that one before, Ben. That's a cracker. It's
You know,
just
'cause
Thought
it's
about
always
it for
sexy.
ages, like 3 seconds or something.
Is
like
that
every
like
good
dog
girl.
years? Like 3 seconds for a Kiwi brain is like, 73 seconds for an Australian brain?
It is. It's exactly that. That's why we look so young.
Yes, like it.
It's the lanolin from the sheep.
Yeah. You should see, look at how shiny that is.
Yeah.
Listeners, this started the second we first walked into the meeting with Ben, didn't it? Straight from the very beginning, the notes came out, and I don't know, I think it was ribbon right from day one all the way through to now.
Yep.
It's the only way for it.
I agree, 100%.
Well, that was weird hearing Coxie ask my question. I think it's the first time, Nicole.
Yeah.
We could make that a regular thing,
No, I just did it once to
You
shock
just tried
and
it on.
delight.
Try it on once. Ben, I just want to reiterate how fulfilling it is to work with you. It's just so great to see someone grasp learning, as you say, and I think that's one of the big takeaways for me from our chat is that commitment to learning. And it's not about personal development and doing transformational programs or anything. I think it's just that openness to actually learning how things work And and I say this a lot on the podcast, and I say it a lot in our client sessions with our tradiepreneurs, is I reckon tradies have such a fantastic skill set around problem solving and understanding how things work. You know, whether it's a heavy diesel fitter or a plumber or a gas fitter or a glazier, it doesn't matter. Like, there's just that kinesthetic skill of how does this work and how do I create something out of it or fix it or, you know, install it. So if you take that to business, it's just about learning how business works, and there's bits that go together and that, you know, turn the gears and produce the outcome. And I just love how you've taken that concept and really run with it, mate. So like I say, you're getting the results you deserve, mate. Super excited about the next 12 months or more with yourself and Cindy and MOA. And, you know, definitely, mate, an Australian branch, a New Zealand branch. You know, you could be up in PNG with another branch up there, like, or branch. Is it branch or branch?
I'm not too sure. I'm gonna go 50-50. It depends on the day of the week.
Branch.
It's a branch.
You could have another branch. Could even have a branch down here in Tassie.
What is wrong with branch?
I wouldn't mind a Tassie branch.
There's lots of axemen down here, mate. Lumberjacks everywhere.
I know, and they're a cut above the rest down there.
Oh, boom. Finish with a pun. Nice, mate.
Thank you very much for your help. Really appreciate it.
Ben, we appreciate you. Thank you very much, Ben. Great to have a chat today.
Thank you.
Thanks, legend.
Hooroo.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.